Hi, this is Peter Emerson from the Critic and the Professor with a little extra credit with the Professor. And this week, I'm honored to have PJ Bostic here with me in studio. PJ!
That's me!
Yay! All right, PJ. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with me today.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. I'm honored to have you in the studio, and honored to be able to share a little bit more about what you do and how well you do it, and all that with our audience, who most likely knows your catalog better than I do, even. So let's jump right into things here. First and foremost, I want to say that I met PJ last year. I had the honor of being invited. Really, I weaseled my way onto stage with Triton at Immortal Fest last year. Thanks, Larry. And had the honor of being on stage with not only PJ and Larry Dean, but Jim Laverde and Ray Para was there as well. And so I got to meet a bunch of biggies at that deal, and it was a load of fun for me. And honored also. It's really cool that PJ is local to me here in Austin, Texas as well. So we get a chance to hang out every once in a while. So PJ, thank you for being here. And what I'd love to do is I'd love us to play through your video of the Blue Light Gaze. And then, because it's such a great tune. I mean, I love everything about that. The feel, the tempo, where the vocals sit, how you've arranged all of the different parts in there. Absolutely just great stuff. So I want to play it, and then I want to hear your thoughts about how you came together to write it and record it, because what we're going to see in the video here is PJ. It's all PJ. I mean, and it's amazing. So without a further ado here, let's listen to a little Blue Light Gaze. Okay. is super cool, man.
Thank you.
That is super awesome.
Thanks.
All right, so that is Blue Light Gaze by PJ Bostic, and he's in studio with us today here at the Critic and the Professor studio for this extra credit. And all right, so all sorts of things come to mind. I mean, this is just a classic sound. It's just super tight, great harmonies, interesting lines. A catchy hook in the chorus. It's everything that you're looking for intelligent music. Tell us about the message behind the song.
Well, I was really inspired by the show in particular that finally kind of prompted me to write the song. You know, I'm a big Batman fan. I love Batman. He's my guy. And
Little Dark Knight.
Yeah. And I was watching Gotham on Netflix, which was very well done. You know, it's about Batman's childhood, Bruce Wayne when he was a kid and stuff. And it was really well done. And this is what Netflix does. This is particularly Netflix, but they put out really good stuff, very quality. And it's just clean enough in the beginning. And they hook you. Yeah. And the next season comes out and it's a little worse. And the sexuality and the violence and the left-wing propaganda and stuff, it just gets more and more. And it was the second time I was watching a show that I really liked that I realized, like, okay, I'm totally hooked by this show. And like I'm watching all the stuff I wouldn't normally watch. Yeah. And I walked away from that show. I was just like, I was mad, that they did that to me again. And it just spurned the lyrics. And it's just, I believe so many of the problems that we're having in our culture today are from social media and streaming services. I think it's just another thing that is good that Satan took and corrupted and decided to destroy humanity with it. Because I think the internet's great. Just look at all the wonderful things that have come from, social media, connecting with people you went to elementary school with. Mm-hmm. And, I started a Facebook page just to promote my music and stuff. Other than that, I had no desire to really do it. But then I connected with all these people that I knew decades ago from my childhood, and it was a great thing. But then we also see all the things that happen with social media that is harmful. And so anyway, it's just the fact that I know Netflix is doing this on purpose. I know that, it's driven by Satan. I'm not saying everyone there's demon possessed. Yeah. But, if you're not living your life for Jesus, you're controlled by Satan in one way or another. And that
whether you know it or not.
Whether you know it or not. And there's a spectrum there, from just, maybe you're possessed and you're climbing on walls and splitting up pea soup. But usually it's just things like destroying the world, in my opinion, just very influenced by Satan. And so, yeah, it just made me mad. And, I have, tons and tons and stacks of journals at home. And I don't really use a lot of the lyrics in my journals and the writings, because usually when I pick up my pen to write, it's because I'm upset about something or hurt or angry. And I'm really trying to change that, particularly the last album, just trying to write, be more inspired by the hopeful things in life than by all the negative things that make me just want to pick up my pen and
thus the title of the new album, which is
Hope in the Winter Stage.
Hope in the Winter Stage.
Yeah, it just happened in a time of my life of what I was going through at that time, where that's just what was coming out of me. And I don't know if I can do that again. My next album I might go back to, it's not all ranting, but there's plenty of just writing the things that I see that I don't like. A lot of it, the stuff in myself, when I'm being preaching my music, I'm preaching at myself. And sometimes I'll listen to a song that I haven't listened to for years that I wrote. I'll be listening to an old record, and there will be a song on there that will speak to me because I was writing about myself, and it will remind me to be a better man, or remind me how close God is to me, if I'm feeling distant or something like that.
That's fantastic. Just for the record, I'd like to state that I believe that PJ is more in the fall stage than the winter stage. Just for the record, I don't think he's that close to the end. So
I don't think so. I think I
I
have
think
more
we
to
have
go.
a lot more to hear from you.
Yeah.
Tell me about recording this and creating the video, because it's really very engaging and very slick, and it's fun to watch, and it's got that dystopian kind
Mhm.
of futuristic, with a little grunge in the background, not to say grunge music, but a little grimy
A little
feel in the
grungy,
back,
and yeah.
a little bit, yeah.
Well, I'm really lucky with the song because, Blue Light Gaze, I was able just to get some cool looking blue lights and throw them up in the studio. And we recorded the songs on our iPhones. And I had my kids in there, I had my wife in there. I tied one to the ceiling to get the overhead shot. And um, I, w- I wasn't planning on doing a video like that,
So this is all
but
iPhone footage.
all iPhone
Oh, that's
footage. Yeah.
crazy.
And and Brad Bauman asked about doing a video for me, and I'm like, heck yeah, And so I sent him the footage that I had. I had no idea he was going to create anything that amazing, and he just created this beautiful video that I was shocked when I saw it, and the Rush Easter egg at the end there, with the Power Windows furniture and stuff. Like, just he knows what a Rush fan I am and how Rush influenced I
Yeah.
am, so that was cool. And yeah, recording it was, I had never necessarily recorded myself singing as a standalone person or playing guitar, and I was the initial takes, I was pretty uncomfortable with it, and I finally just had to say, okay, just do what you do when you play drums. I love singing. I love expressing myself. I love playing my guitar. I'm the only one in the studio. I've got this camera. I think I might have had one of my kids come in and do a couple of those so I could get some movement. I don't remember, but once I started letting go and feeling it and having fun. That's when I started feeling like I was capturing the beginning of my journey of singing and
Yeah.
performing live as a singer and a guitar player. I hadn't really done too much of that.
Well, the only problem with that is that there is only one of you,
Mm-hmm. And that's a big problem.
and
But on the other hand, thank God there's
so
only one of me.
so
The world would have to contend with 4 or 5 of me, and
well,
that might get a little annoying.
I'm not going to say it would. I think it might be. I think it might be cool. Uh, but tell me what you do when you do. Uh, what's your setup when your
Oh, right.
configuration when you perform live? Because I have seen you perform live. In fact, I was at the CD release, for the Hope in the Winter stage, when that came out, and I know how you did it there. But I'd love for you to explain that to the audience.
Well, it's a pretty unique thing. First of all, for the most part, I've been very, being a artist, in the 90s, and, with Grandma Train and stuff. And some of the artists that would come, there would be, a girl up there dancing around the tracks, and, they were on a label and they couldn't afford a band. So they'd go out, and it always seemed a little silly to us. And I don't mean to put it down, they're doing the best they can with,
Yeah.
what they have. But being that I was younger and a little more opinionated and, a little more critical, I guess, critical in a different way. We would poke fun at that kind of thing, and so when I started recording all my music, it's just hard to find a drummer that is willing to work hard enough to play my stuff with the budget that I have, and
Yeah.
which is nothing really. So I had friends telling me, well, just play to tracks, just get your guitar and go and sing and play to tracks. And there was no way I was doing that. I was not going to go dance around to PJ Bostic music and play guitar and sing and have everything be on tracks. But then one day I had this idea, like, well, what if I had a couple of guys, and what if I recorded the drums on the video and then projected the drums on the screen behind me,
Which is exactly where the drummer would be
where it
anyway.
would be. And it's not a perfect world, but they can still see me play drums, even if it is on the big screen. That my kick drum is still pounding them in the chest, and that's fun. And so we tried it, had the screen, and I recorded some songs, and I got a couple friends, and we did a show. And I didn't know how it was going to go over. I didn't know if it was going to be cheesy or cool or what. I hoped that it would have the effect of when you watch a movie with subtitles. At first, you're like, "Oh, this movie has subtitles," and it's but after 20 minutes, when you're in the movie, you forget that you're watching subtitles.
You just accept it.
And I don't know about the first part of that, but I did have pretty much everyone that I had talked to said that, yeah, they noticed that the drums were on the screen, and maybe they thought that was different or odd or whatever, but halfway in the show, like, they didn't even think about that. They just had a good time and they enjoyed the show thoroughly, and it just didn't seem to matter to them. I think if I think they would rather ultimately see a live drummer. I know I would, but I think this is going to work, at least for now. If I find somebody someday, I think having a drummer would be great. But in the meantime, it's been kind of cool. And so we're rehearsing. We have a screen in the rehearsal studio, and we're going through the set list and polishing it. And we've got some interesting videos going in between the songs and stuff. And yeah, I think it's going to be a good thing.
Well, from the perspective of somebody who was there and actually saw it in action, I thought it worked really surprisingly well, because I'd never seen it done either. Now, people work with backing tracks all the time, like sweetener tracks and things like that. That's fairly common with my He Rules the World show. There are a couple of keyboard parts in there, and I'm playing one of them on stage, usually the one that's more interesting and fun for me to play. And then the other one, like the pads and like an organ part that's just kind of holding chords out, I'll put that in the stems and let that ride in there. But it's something completely different to
I think that's fair.
Do with the drums.
Yeah, even Rush had sequencers and stuff going on.
But what I thought that worked really well is that all of a sudden you've got this great mix of the drums that the sound guys got perfect control over.
That is the blessing.
That is a blessing with that, because if you're in a small enough room that is going to your drum set's going to overpower the room, then you've got to then you're going to play in the fishbowl or whatever you're going to do. But this really made that mix super, super tight and really, really good.
Yeah, because live drums really are, especially in smaller venues, they're always a problem. I know, as the drummer, I'm always being told to turn down, especially after moving to Austin. Seattle, Grandma Train, loud band, really loud band. Yeah. Paragon, Grandma Train, I don't think we were ever told to turn down. And then I moved to Austin, and almost everywhere. And I've played, probably hundreds of shows at this point. Almost everywhere, the drums are too
you're
loud.
A rock band. Okay, here's your brushes.
Love Austin, love the music scene, but I'm just a little loud for Austin, I guess.
Well, there you go. Well, then that's why you get a big sound, and I couldn't imagine Rush playing a small cavern.
I know. Can you imagine Neil just having to? Hey, Neil, can you keep it down? And one of the first my first tour with Bloodgood, I remember it was one of the first 4 shows. We were somewhere in the Midwest, and we played in a chapel. And it was like the little chapel that has even just the white little picket fence thing up there between. And it was so shallow that there was just enough room for my drums, like, on the side. So the little fence thing is right in front of my drum set. And then, Les is in the middle, and whatever, the keyboards are over there. And it was way too loud. And I just felt so ridiculous playing, instead of, it was just tap, and I'm trying to just tap my little feet and just like hit the cymbal all like,
and it's still blowing
Les
up the room.
All like, he's headbanging, and everyone's headbanging, like they're just like all full on, and I'm over here just going, oh, please God, don't let this be too loud, because they're gonna tell me to turn down again. I'm trying to do all these fills, and the hardest thing I remember was keeping my feet, just trying to play fast with my kick drums and pitter pattering it, and just tick. It was for sure, for me, that was my first Spinal Tap moment in Bloodgood, was this gig where we had to be so quiet.
And then you almost spontaneously combusted on the drums.
I think instead of combusting, I think it would have went the other way.
Imploded.
It would have imploded, yeah.
Would have went down to nothing.
Yeah.
That's a great visual. I'm going to have to get ChatGPT to create me this visual, and we're going to insert that right here. Oh, there it is.
He played quieter and quieter and quieter and quieter until he just imploded.
I love that visual. That's a great story. So tell me about some of the other groups that you've played with, and who are some of the highlights and whatnot.
Well, it started with Paragon, in '83, and we were not a Christian band in the beginning. And I quit that band when I flipped the switch. I was a Christian, but I saw another friend's band that was in a progressive band, and I saw them, and something they said from the stage just reached me, and so I just sort of committed my life to the Lord in a new, fresh way, even though I was still pretty messed up. But I just wanted to take my talent and give it to God. That was one of the steps I made in my walk. I was still hanging on to plenty of the world. I still was trying to keep one foot in the world and one foot by Christianity and stuff. But so Paragon, and I was in a band called Red Rain for a while with Eric Wayne, the singer from Holy Soldier, and Craig Church from Bloodgood. We wrote songs for 2 years, and then I left to join Bloodgood.
So was that a Peter Gabriel thing?
It was a Seattle 80s not metal kind of a thing.
So not inspired by Peter Gabriel's Red Rain?
Oh, no.
No?
No.
Great song, by the way. But
yeah, so it was a good band. We just wrote, and we kept writing, and like we just weren't doing shows, which is something I really wanted to do. And we were trying to get signed, and everything was going to happen tomorrow. And I was just, one of the reasons I left Paragon and moved to Seattle and to join Red Rain is because I needed things to happen faster, and I just wanted to, I'm very driven, and I just wanted to do more. And so I joined Bloodgood, and then I toured with them, and I got to do the big shows in Europe with them, and that was kind of like the highlight of their career. And then they broke up in '93, got back together later. But then I started Grandma Train with Pete Stewart, and we right away we were rehearsing 3 or 4 nights a week and gigging almost every weekend. So we were always playing together.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And there was just something, the chemistry that band had was off the chart. And we got some airplay in Nashville, and suddenly all these Christian labels were calling us, and we kind of had our pick. And Eddie DeGarmo was one of the 2 people that flew out to see us, and he seemed like he had the most to offer, and he really believed in what we were doing, and he really wanted the first Christian grunge band, and so we kind of went back and forth a little bit, because I was very untrusting of everybody, really, and I felt very protective of the band. Everyone was looking at me since I had the most experience. It doesn't mean I knew anything, but I just felt like if they were really leaning on me to make the right decision, or at least guide that decision. And so I just felt the weight of that, and I didn't want to let anybody down. And so we did end up going with Forefront, and I think it was a good decision. And just something I've said before in some of these interviews, I did take it for granted, all the things that Forefront was doing for us. I focused more on the things that they, I think, wanted to do for us but didn't do.
Yeah.
I was more upset about those things than I was the things that they were doing for us.
That's a very human position.
Yeah. And you always take your status quo for granted. And the carrot was always still out there, and the carrot was always bigger. Like 6 months later, that carrot gets bigger, and then now that's what you want. And
isn't it funny how we grow into and beyond where we are, and we're like, oh, if I only get to this point in my life, then I've made it.
Yeah.
And we get there and we're like, oh, but there's just a little bit more that I need to get or accomplish or do or whatever. It's funny how we just expand like that in everything. And sometimes that's a healthy thing. And sometimes it's not. Maybe
that's part of our eternal spirit. Some people are afraid of heaven because it's going to be forever, and they're afraid they're going to get bored. But maybe that's part of what God put in us.
Yeah.
This ability that we have we always just want to keep growing or keep learning or keep doing or keep, like, maybe that not being satisfied is, stifled by our flesh, being here on earth. And it's something I haven't necessarily pondered before, but now that we're talking about it, it seems like,
well,
if that's true, that could be kind of cool, being eternally creating and striving.
Yeah, perhaps we're like a koi fish, they're like, if you keep them in a small place like a goldfish, they're gonna only grow to the size of their environment. You put them in a bigger environment, they're gonna grow to
We're gonna
that
be
size.
giant.
And that's
have
why
big long legs and arms.
Exactly. They'll come out.
But but with heaven, it won't be like the earthly toil. It won't be like we're working by the sweat of our brow to accomplish some kind of security through what we're trying to work for,
right,
or some sort of an amount of record sales or status. It'll just just like when I'm creating music because I love it, and I'm not thinking about trying to sell it or what I'm going to do with it. I'm just because I love it. Like, to me, that's more like what heaven is going to be. I mean, who knows? But it seems like God created us to do something. So whatever we're going to be doing in heaven, seems like we're just going to always be wanting to do something cool and cooler and cooler and cooler. So
and God's going to lay it out for us, and all the cool things are going to be there, and I don't think we're going to have to worry about it.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to get bored.
Tell me, I got a couple more questions for you. Okay, aside from the obvious of taking Anika's role with Rush and playing that gig, who else in the Christian industry would you love to play with that you haven't yet?
I've wanted to work with Barren Cross, but not necessarily because I was a fan. I mean, that's part of it. Before I joined Bloodgood, Bloodgood and Barren Cross and Stryper were probably the three like metal bands that I listened to the most. But there was, it's funny, ironically, just before I started working, with Triton and getting to play with Jim Laverty from Barren Cross, they were just on my mind a lot, and I was thinking, like, I wanted to produce a record for them or something. I just wanted to do something with them, and I hadn't listened to their music in years, but they just kind of still had this sort of special place, and I don't take every emotion and assume it's from the Lord. I'm careful about that kind of thing because I think too many people do that. But it was just this strong enough kind of feeling that I was wondering. So I wonder if is this a God thing? Is he kind of speaking to me about this, or is this just? And I don't know. But they were just on my mind, and I was just like, I just felt like I wanted to work with them. I didn't really know if they were even doing much or what they were doing, and it was strange that within, I think, like months of just that little thought I had, I was working with Jim Laverty from Barren Cross, and so I mean, that was just, it kind of came and went. I don't necessarily feel that way now, but it would definitely push me in that direction if they reached out and wanted to do something. I'd look back on that and think, okay, maybe that was from God. Maybe that was God saying, if they want to do something with you, you need to do it,
Yeah, I've definitely found that God puts things on my heart. He just opens things up, and it's just like an introduction, a feeling, a something, and just so many examples of doors opening that I didn't even know existed before. In my journey on working on He Rules the World, and now working on another large project that we'll announce at some point, and doing the podcast with Doug, and just it's incredible how these doors open, and sometimes it's just a gentle nudge, and then sometimes I feel like it's a slap in the back of the head and a shove through the doorway. It's like, oh, here I am.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, I guess I'm here. Might as well pay attention and do something while I'm here. And so, we don't always listen. We know that, but when we do, it just seems to be just magical in the goodness and the greatness of what comes out of it. And I think the fact that you're sitting here talking to me right now is proof positive of that, because this is a world that I was never in, as is the premise with the Critic and the Professor, is that I know next to nothing about Christian rock and roll and Christian metal and progressive metal and such, and here I am just like jumping in with both feet now. And
yeah, and just as I've gotten to know you, it surprises me that you haven't spent a lot of time in the scene, because you just seem like a fit. Like you're fitting in with the rest of us kooky people so well.
Well, as they say here,
we're all a little off.
As they say here in Texas, is that I'm not from Texas, but I got here as quick as I could. Right, so I guess that's it with me as well, and it's interesting because I was speaking with Tim Risto earlier this week, and
love that guy.
And yeah, he's such a great guy, and his podcast is really fantastic, and Tim talks Christian rock, and I would definitely check out his channel as well if you haven't. But we were talking, we are kind of opposites in a way, because Tim was saying that he grew up with Christian music because he was a PK, a preacher's kid. And so he wasn't really exposed to music outside of Christian music. So he was listening to all the great, the Res Band and all of the stuff from the 70s and going into the 80s with Stryper and Petra and all of that. And he's explaining this to me, and he says, and it wasn't until he got into the 90s or so that he started kind of looking back to the great music from outside of the Christian realm in the 70s and 80s and such. And I was like, that's my exact opposite story, because I was steeped in Rush and Triumph and Styx and Toto and Supertramp and Stevie Wonder and Peter Gabriel and the Police and Sting and all of this, stuff. I was listening to Howard Jones even. And I was steeped in that stuff and knew nothing about Christian music. I'd heard of Stryper. I'd heard the name Petra. There wasn't anybody introducing it to me. And it wasn't on MTV enough for it to stick with me.
Right.
And so when we got into the 90s, because I graduated high school in '88, and early '90s, MTV turned me off completely. Because no offense, but I didn't care for grunge. I just didn't. It didn't speak to me at all, because I was listening to Kansas and all of that, all of the high level, intricate line progressive stuff. And so the grunge stuff seemed like to be a step backwards.
That's why I was a late bloomer in the grunge scene too. It took a while for me to get it.
And who's the most famous grunge keyboard player?
I don't know. I don't think one exists.
Also my point. So I was a keyboard player,
right.
And so grunge didn't offer anything for me. And to be honest with you, I really didn't like and I don't want to talk too much about grunge, but I didn't like the whole, oh, look at me, feel sorry for me, I'm a loser, and blah, blah, blah. And that didn't speak to me, because I've always been a pretty positive person. And I was like, all of a sudden, it's like, no.
Maybe if you'd grown up in Seattle and suffered with the rest of us, you would have.
Yeah, perhaps I would have moved. Yeah. But so I rejected that music and went heavy into jazz in the 90s, right? And so I wasn't listening to music in the 90s, the commercial music. And so, but anyway, long story short is that a few years ago, after, God gave me this He Rules the World show, and I made a decision. I was like, okay, you've given me all these gifts, and you've given me this ambition and this ability to create this show. And then it clicked with me. It's like, I need to be all in with everything that I do is for God. And I had that moment. And before it was like, well, yeah, okay, I've been a keyboard player, pianist in the church for a long, long time. But then I'd go and do the secular stuff. And I was chasing the secular stuff, and the Sunday gig was just the Sunday gig. I've always been a Christian, but then it really dawned on me. I was like, but no, for me to really be a Christian, I need to be all in, and everything that I do needs to be for the glory of God. And so that really, really just changed things for me completely. And then, of course, meeting Doug, he's introduced me to a lot of stuff. He introduced me to you. He turned me on to Neil Morse, and my mind just went, and I'm like, oh my goodness, how? And this has been out for almost 30 years. Where has this been, and where have I been? But it was because I rejected that commercial stuff in the 90s and I wasn't paying any attention to it, and I already wasn't listening to Christian stuff, and so I didn't know that it existed. And so when I started getting back into rock and progressive and things like that, a lot of stuff had come and gone, and I wasn't even aware of it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying about being all in, with what you put your hands to do, just doing it for the Lord, and for me, there was a couple steps to why I came to that. And one was just the blood and sweat that you put into a record, writing and creating and releasing it, and usually losing money and doing the gigs and whatever. I mean, let's say you do make a few bucks. Say you even make a lot. If it's just for money and fame, what is that going to mean on your deathbed when you're dead and you're looking at meeting your Father? What is all that going to mean? And then the other thing that sealed it for me was when I did spend, it started with, the Gideon's Press was a Christian band, turned into the Illustrated Band, which was not a Christian band. And then I went on the road for a few years with Terry Bozzio as his drum tech, and I was touring with Monty Montgomery and some country artists. And I just spent, 3, 4, 5 years touring on the road all the time in secular bands. And my walk with God just plummeted, just not being like, I didn't know that I really had that in me to sink to the depths that I did. Mm-hmm. And so between just that, being in that culture, drenched in it as a Christian without good people around, and I don't blame anybody that I toured with, I only blame myself, but without having Christian fellowship on the road.
Yeah.
And the fact that if you're going to make all the kind of sacrifices that you make in this business to put out music, like, why am I wasting my time doing this just for some fame and some money if it's just going to drag me down and soak up my resources and just destroy me, really, And so now it's a lot of hard work. It drains me, but it's eternal. And when I'm on my deathbed, I don't care if I've sold 400 albums, 4 million albums would be great. And, that's the goal, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But, I'm going to reach who God wants me to reach. We're all salt on a hamburger, and we're responsible for salting our sphere of influence, big or small. And so we take what God has given us and we salt it, and let everyone else be responsible for what God's given them.
Yeah.
Big or small. There's always somebody salting more than you, and there's always somebody salting less. And we can't start feeling like we're inadequate or unsuccessful because we're not salting as much of the earth as somebody else is. So I've become quite content with where I'm at and what I'm doing, and I trust the Lord. And if He wants the PJ Bostic project to do more, He will. And if not, it takes a conscious effort not to be frustrated with it, but I do. I have peace, when at the end of the day I have peace and I have joy, and on my deathbed I'll know this is from the Lord, and there's eternal fruit from it. Mm-hmm. There's, I still get messages and texts or private messages on Facebook and stuff from people that share with me that, like, one guy recently said that not only did he become a drummer because of me, but also became a Christian. Wow. And is playing Christian music now. And I can't remember if it was just his worship team. I know one guy was touring. I don't remember what band he's touring with, but it's a a praise and worship band that's touring. I don't remember who they are, but
well, I would say 1 out of 2 is not bad there.
For
we can work on the drummer thing.
Yeah,
he can be cured of that, but
so yeah, just knowing that somebody that I reached, they're outreaching people, and they're going to do the same thing for somebody, and so forth, and
that is the Great Commission, after all.
Yeah, and that's enough for me, you know.
That's a great place to be.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say that it's a joy knowing you and feeling your passion and seeing your heart for God and for what you're doing and how it's reaching people and that. And I can't wait to see more from you. How should our audience connect with you? Where can they find all things PJ Bostic? And tell us what's next for you.
First, I need a nice sip of this coffee out of this. It just tastes better in this mug for some reason. What is it about this mug? I mean, it's just a blue mug. That's all I see is just this blue. It's just a blue mug, but it just tastes so good in this mug.
It's got a little blue light gaze to it.
Best cup of coffee I've ever had right there.
Okay, so tell me about the current lineup that you have in your band and what plans you have coming up, and then tell us where we can find more about PJ Bostic.
Okay, well, pjbostic.com. You can communicate with me there, and all my music is on there. And the lineup, well, I'm getting ready to book shows for the fall, and awesome. I'm rehearsing now, and Manny, I almost said Manny Scarmardo. Dominic Scarmardo is playing guitar with me. He's played with me for a couple of years. He was on the worship team out at Austin Ridge, and we met, and we were into Porcupine Tree and a lot of the same bands. And it's not very often that you play on a worship team and meet someone that's into bands like Porcupine Tree.
Nice.
And so we just kind of connected, and he just kept letting me know he was there, you know, and I kept letting him know I was there. We would just keep in touch once in a while, and then it's initially kind of because of him that I started doing this again, because I just didn't think I was going to play live again. And then you know, for the album release party, it made sense, and a friend of mine at church, one of the elders, Ryan, was encouraging me to do a show, so we threw that one together. And so since then, I've acquired bass player extraordinaire Manny Morales, and from Deliverance.
Nice.
And the dude's a shredder. And like Dominic, he's a bro, man. Like, he's just the sweetest guy. Like, both of these guys, I've surrounded myself with good people on this. I feel like if we're at a gig and someone needs to talk to somebody, you know, whether they just need just to talk to someone, or if they want to recommit their life, or if they just need to know who Jesus is, they could talk to anybody in the band.
That's awesome.
And these guys are working really, really hard because the songs are difficult. A lot of you know, odd time signatures to deal with, and some of the songs are kind of long, and a lot of different parts, and I'm pretty picky about it being done well, you know, and they know that, and it seems to me that their heart is that they want to do it well also, and they're working really, really hard. So we're getting there. We've been rehearsing for a while. We've you know, have about an hour and 15, hour and 10 of music to present with some chattiness here and there. So I'm thinking maybe even as soon as September, October,
That's fantastic. Well, be sure to let us know those dates as they come in, and we will help you get that word out.
Great.
And I know that you can connect with him on Facebook as well.
Mm-hmm.
So be sure to do that, and YouTube.
A YouTube channel.
And I want to thank you for coming out and doing this extra credit. And it's been an honor and a pleasure. And PJ Bostic. All right, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Extra Credit with the Professor, and we ask that you like, subscribe, follow, do all the things. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram, and make sure that you're back for the next full episode of The Critic and the Professor with our friend Doug Van Pelt. Thank you to Sanctuary International Matrix for hosting us, and check out Rex Riffs. You won't be disappointed. All right, folks, we'll see you next time.